So you mentioned just now citizen participation, and I want to put your attention to this particular initiative called the Rail Corridor. And it's something that's very dear to many Singaporeans. And I think it's been held up as an example of how government and citizen participation can result in something that's quite successful. And of course, you know, the implementation is still going on now. But we had a very extensive consultation process for that, and I would say it was groundbreaking in the sense that previously in projects there wasn't that much consultation with the public that was being done. So maybe can you share your experience about you know, how the government envisioned this project to go, and were there some lessons that were learned from this that can be applied to other projects in the future?
Well, I suppose first of all, the Rail Corridor is quite a unique and distinctive site. It's full of history and heritage, as you know. It's a sort of a central spine running down our island. It is much longer than, say, New York's High Line.
Yeah, which it always gets compared
That's
to.
right. And it's much bigger. And it connects about more than 1 million Singaporeans. So it's really quite a distinctive piece of land. And when we looked at it, we felt that it was an opportunity to engage Singaporeans from conceptualization to implementation. And that's why from a very early stage, once we got the land back, we already started canvassing for ideas, getting people to give us their inputs and all sorts of creative ways in terms of how we can preserve the green spaces, while, you know, still retaining some of the development potential of the land. And so we had many useful ideas which eventually got fed into the design brief, which was put out for the tender for the expert to come up with a concept plan. So all the ideas came into the concept plan, and I think the winning proposal came out with a very good plan. But even after that, we went out and continued to do focus groups with the communities, which we are still doing, and engaging different communities to see how these concept plans would, you know, first of all, to see that the ideas got turned into a very nice concept plan, professionally done, and then later, to continue to engage them to see how the concept plan can actually translate into something concrete on the ground. So even in my area in Stagmont, where my constituency is, we are in UT Choa Chu Kang North, Pang Sua Canal. That's an area which is adjacent to the Rail Corridor, and where the Pang Sua Canal is. We engaged students, and there were some students from Regent Secondary, and they were very excited about the plans. They talked about how they could potentially bring people in a nursing home which is going to be built nearby. They could bring the seniors there to the gardens which could be built near the Rail Corridor. They talked about having more active water activities, because with the Rail Corridor and with Pang Sua Canal nearby, we could do a lot more water activities. So they were quite excited about the plans that were coming, and they thought about how they discussed many ideas about how they could get involved. And I think that's a good example of how, for something quite distinctive like the Rail Corridor, a very greenfield project, we can get maximum participation from people from the start to the implementation. And we are doing this for many other projects too. So like in Jurong Lake Gardens, where we are now doing a major concept plan review of how we can refresh the gardens and then link it to the new Jurong Lake district, which potentially can become our second CBD with the terminus for the KL Singapore high-speed rail landing there. So similarly, we had very extensive conversations with residents around the Jurong area about their memories of Jurong Lake Gardens, what they would like to see the gardens, how they would like to see the Chinese and Japanese gardens changing, or what they would like to see with these two gardens fitting into the new Jurong Lake Gardens. And we had many inputs, and so these inputs are now being taken into consideration for a design brief, which will be called, or has already been called, and then when the architects come in to design this, they will take these inputs into account, and subsequent to that, we would still continue with the engagement with residents and with the community to see how they can be well implemented.